Hello everyone, my name is Andrew Cole, your host tonight for our very own campus radio station 96.5 WPWR. Today we are going to discuss a novel that we heard is very informative and which talks about the struggles that a young Native American boy faces while growing up on a reservation. We have a very special guest tonight who recently came across this book that talks in detail how white privilege has resulted in people from minorities to lose hope. He has explored the sociological aspects of inequity and privilege in class, and has hence agreed to discuss the novel. I would like to welcome Raghav Agrawal, a fellow student at Purdue University. I would like to thank you for taking the time to enlighten us with your knowledge on the topic. I would like to begin by asking, how did you come across the book?
Thank you, Andrew, for having me here, and really, it's an honor to be on air with the campus radio station. I came across The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie, which is the novel we are going to discuss today while working on an assignment for my sociology class. My professor for the class encouraged us to explore how white privilege has affected minority races by discouraging them to fight their predetermined fate, and how years of oppression has stopped their younger generation from feeling empowered. I chose this book from a list of novels that we could choose from because the title itself interested me. Consider the adjectives absolutely true and part-time, which evinced my interest with concepts it seemed to emphasize. It was either referring to an internal struggle of someone or a struggle between someone and the racial inequities they dealt with, or both or neither. This mischievous reference to so many different things in the title made me want to read the book.
What does the author want people to take from this book, which is a semi-autobiographical story as opposed to something 100% fictional?
The author wants people to realize the fact that it's a lot harder to grow up to be successful in a society where you are limited from realizing your full potential because you are surrounded by people who have lost hope of ever being successful because of being born into a particular race. The book's theme is one about the struggles faced by Junior, a young Native American boy from a racial minority that has been oppressed for too long by the white majority and have therefore given up hope. The cartoons drawn by Junior, like who my parents would have been if someone had paid attention to their dreams, and white, and white/Indian, show his understanding of the ways that racism has deeply affected his and his family's lives. For example, in the first cartoon he explains how his family came from a poor background who had never had a chance of being successful. The cartoon depicts how his mother would have looked like today if she had been given the chance to go to college, since she was extraordinarily smart. She was shown dressed as a stereotypical college teacher who had received the honor of being the teacher of the year for 6 years in a row. It portrays his father as a successful musician if he had been given the chance with his musical talent that can be seen when he is drunk. But Junior mentions how reservation Indians do not get to realize their dreams, and all they are is poor. It's an ugly circle that starts with the feeling that you deserve to be poor, then believing you are poor because you're stupid and ugly, then believing you're stupid and ugly because you're Indian, and finally because you're Indian you start believing you're destined to be poor. This helplessness and this helpless acceptance of one's fate as being poor forever when you're 14 years old shows how Junior was convinced that his Native American origins had already sealed his destiny as a poor, unsuccessful Indian on the reservation.
Do you think that reading this book helped you uncover the meaning of the title and the reference to the potential struggles faced by the protagonist?
I think the book answered the meaning of the title very clearly. The adjectives absolutely true and part-time are used to describe the life struggles faced by Junior while growing up on the reservation, knowing that he could do better than what had been set out for him. Absolutely true describes the originality of the story, since it is written by the author as a semi-autobiographical story that addresses the stereotypical portrayal of Indians with their specific cultural markers such as behaviors, speech pattern, ways of seeing the world, ethics, and principles, shown from a semi-personal perspective that gives the story some authenticity. Part-time is a reference to the mixed feelings that Junior faces after shifting out of the high school in his home reservation to the high school in the white town nearby to have a better shot at a successful career. He feels he is half Indian when he is at Riordan, the white town, and on his reservation he feels as if he is half white. He says, "It was like being Indian was my job, but it was only a part-time job." This statement explains his emotional reaction to the situation he landed in after his decision to shift schools. In his home reservation, he was looked upon as a deserter who had chosen white people over his own people. The Halloween after shifting schools was rough since he mentions a lot more people called me names and slammed the door in my face when he went trick or treating on the reservation. He is struggling to accept the facts of life after the shift to Riordan since he seems to be running away from the reservation to find something better than what fate had dished out to him. He has been shunted out from his own community as his fellow tribal members are angry at him for shifting to a white school and at the same time has not been accepted by the white students at Riordan since he is Indian and is different. On his first day of school he says, "Those white kids couldn't believe their eyes. They stared at me like I was Bigfoot or a UFO." It's his fight to be accepted everywhere that leads him to say the part-time statement. He is struggling to be accepted as an equal among the whites in Riordan High School by assimilating a bit while keeping his Indian identity, and at the same time struggling to convince his tribe that he can coexist with them and still has his Indian heritage and culture intact even though he goes to a white high school. Junior is fighting for his identity, which is mixed up because he is known as Junior on the reservation, but as Arnold Spirit at the Riordan High School. He feels that he is two people in one body.
And what is your opinion of the book?
In my opinion, this book is very well written, and I would recommend reading it if someone wanted to understand the struggles faced by any young person from an ethnic minority that has been denied access to success in the mainstream. This book is about a young boy from an American Indian reservation who is giving a first-hand account of the difficulties faced by him for being Indian and wanting to aspire more than what his kind are supposed to dream for. From a sociologist's point of view, this book looks at the issue of race and how it affects someone if they are not from the racial majority. One can see that from the beginning when he needed his extra teeth pulled out and how the white dentist only gave half the recommended anesthetic because he believed that Indians only felt half as much as pain as white people did. This act of simple discrimination showed the young boy that his race was just half as much human as the white race. It's a common fact that impressions made when you're young last forever since your mind is much more susceptible to believe everything that is happening around you because you're young, you're unable to differentiate between the rights and wrongs, and hence unable to filter out the negatives. The mentality of the young boy has been affected so much by the happenings around him that he thinks that the world is a series of broken dams and floods and that his cartoons are tiny little lifeboats. He refers to his mom's inability to lie and comments that Indians should be better liars considering how often they've been lied to. This is in stark contrast to what a kid growing up in a white neighborhood would ever think about. At such a young age, Junior's struggles had given him the wisdom to say that poverty doesn't teach you strength or teach you lessons about perseverance. No, poverty only teaches you how to be poor. This draws the reader into the realities of his life, which is the exact opposite of how cultural outsiders stereotypically portray Indians. Junior disagrees with the stereotypical portrayal where they tend to romanticize the impoverishment of Indians with a simple yet effective statement.
How does the book depict the vast gulf between the racial minority and the white majority?
The book depicts the reservation where Junior is from as a strong community where everyone is rated, everyone is valued, everyone lives a hard scrabble life, everyone is at risk for early death, and the loss of one person is a loss to the community. Junior mentions how he has been to 42 funerals even though he is just 14 years old and how that is the biggest difference between Indians and white people. The book tells us of the sad condition of the school, the houses, the uninterested white teachers at school, the musty old trailer houses for the teachers. For example, the geometry book that Junior had to study from was the same geometry book that his mother had used when she was in school, which means that it was at least 30 years older than he was. This gives us an insight into the poor financial status of the community. The moment he asked his parents the question as to who has most hope, he knew the answer was white people, even before his parents answered with the same exact thing, which shows the absence of hope in every resident of the reservation. He then talks about Riordan, the rich white farm town which has one of the best small schools in the state, with a computer room and a huge chemistry lab and a drama club and 2 basketball gyms. He comments on the fact that half of every graduating class from Riordan went to college whereas no one in his family had even gone near a college. The book depicts Riordan as a white town where residents have greater access to social services, healthcare, and wealth, but people are socially distanced from each other. It's easy to see the difference between the white people living in Riordan, who are portrayed as having a bright future, to the American Indians living on the reservation who have nothing but poverty and hopelessness.
Does the book provide any proof that the minority faces any racism at the hands of the majority? Also, does it affect them and their mentality?
The first example for this is when his geometry teacher confessed to him that teachers used to beat the rowdy Indian kids when he first started teaching on the reservation. That's how white teachers were expected to teach the Indians. He says, "We were supposed to kill the Indian to save the child." They didn't literally kill Indians, but they were supposed to make Indians give up their culture. That is, they were trying to kill the Indian culture. The book mentions the fact how Junior's dad was stopped 3 times by racist cops in Reardon for DWI, driving while Indian. Also, Chief, Tonto, and Squaw Boy were common names that Junior was called at the white-dominated high school, but the best proof of white privilege would be when a bully made the most demeaning comment without any regret or fear of repercussion. The white bully came up to Junior and said, "Did you know that Indians are living proof that niggers fuck buffalo?" Which is the epitome of racism. Also, when Junior tried to correct his science teacher about a certain fact, the teacher made sarcastic comments about Junior being from the reservation instead of correcting himself. But when a white student supported Junior's statement, the teacher thanked the white student and accepted his mistake without giving any credit to the fact that Junior was the one who corrected him originally. Also, Junior's girlfriend's dad was a racist who implied that offsprings of Indian and white parents are charcoal babies. All these examples together are reasons enough to discourage any racial minority from expecting equal treatment and find something better for themselves outside of the community. The oppressed start thinking that white people are the only ones with hope and start feeling that their kind are destined to be poor and sad, while white people are destined to have a bright future, positive role models, and deserve to be successful.
Raghav, I would like to thank you for taking the time to answer our questions. I hope to see you in the future here sometime soon. Listeners, please stay tuned to 96.5 WPWR for some more music.
Thank you, Andrew, for having me over here.